This is the first video in our series and is titled Colonization and Settlement, and it will cover the period from 1585 to 1763. So just a little background on this time. The era before this is called by historians as the Age of Exploration due to the large amount of sea voyages to other continents and, for our purposes, the expeditions to America. The most significant voyages of this time were Christopher Columbus's, starting in 1492 to the Caribbean. Columbus, though, believed he had found a sea route to Asia, and did not believe he found an entire new world, which European powers would colonize. In 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh founded the first English colony of Roanoke in modern-day North Carolina. This colony, though, failed and mysteriously disappeared. In 1607, the English made their second attempt with Jamestown. Although initially the settlers were faced with difficulty, the colony took hold due to the growing of tobacco and the strong leadership of John Smith. In 1620, Puritan separatists founded a colony at Plymouth in modern-day Massachusetts. These settlers, though, came seeking religious freedom from England rather than economic opportunity. In 1636, Roger Williams was banned from the Massachusetts Bay Colony due to his ideas on religion and government. He then founded his own colony at Providence, Rhode Island. In 1632, George Calvert, the first Baron of Baltimore, was given a royal charter to establish his own colony for Roman Catholics. His son, the second Baron, did this in Maryland and extended religious toleration to all Christians. In 1681, William Penn established his colony of Quakers in Pennsylvania. In 1732, James Oglethorpe founded a southern English colony in Georgia. This colony was created for Protestants, as well as those who were heavily in debt and were filling the English prisons. Oglethorpe hoped they could better themselves in his new colony. These are just a few examples of colonies that the English were establishing in this new world. Other major European powers, such as France, Spain, and Holland, were also making their mark on the New World. With this New World up for grab, conflicts often came about between the competing European powers and the local Native Americans who have inhabited these lands for thousands and thousands of years. In 1675, in New England, King Philip's War broke out between New England settlers and local Native Americans. Although there are many causes for this conflict, the straw that had broke the camel's back was an incident when a Puritan farmer had killed a Native American who he believed was trying to steal his cattle. The killing of that Native American had enraged the local Indians, and Chief Metacomet, who was known by the English as King Philip, united the local tribes in going to war with New England. The colonies in New England, though, were able to unite and successfully defend themselves from Chief Metacomet and his alliance of local tribes. The most significant conflict of this era was the French and Indian War, and it would eventually escalate into a world war involving many European nations. Tensions between England and France grew when both sides claimed the Ohio River Valley, and both built fortifications to defend their claims. The English sent a 21-year-old militia captain from Virginia named George Washington into the area to order the French to leave. The French, though, refused, and the English built a fort on the site of modern-day Pittsburgh. The French quickly captured this newly built fort and renamed it Fort Duquesne. Washington attempted to counter this by constructing another fort, which he called Fort Necessity, but the French also captured this fort. In July of 1755, the English, under the command of William Braddock, attempted to recapture Fort Duquesne, which the French and their Indian allies had used to launch attacks on English settlements on the western frontier. Braddock and his men engaged the French at the Battle of the Wilderness, but were defeated, and Braddock was even killed during the battle. In 1756, the war changed dramatically when Prussia invaded Saxony. Due to systems of alliances, most European powers found themselves at war with other European powers. Historians would call this war now the 7 Years' War, and the French and Indian War just became a theater in a much bigger conflict. Battles would soon erupt in Europe as well as other European colonies such as India, South Africa, and the Philippines. In 1758, English General John Forbes attempted the third attack on Fort Duquesne. Although the English suffered heavy casualties during the battle, they were successful in driving the French out. The French had lost their support during the battle from their Native American allies and were unable to defend Fort Duquesne from the larger English force. Instead of just surrendering, the French decided to blow up the fort and retreated farther north. The English then established their own fort, called Fort Pitt, in the location where Fort Duquesne was. This battle is considered to be the turning point in the French and Indian War, and the English, who had suffered heavy losses at the beginning of the conflict, would soon go on to be victorious over the French. In 1789, the English, under the command of James Wolfe, defeated the French under the command of Montcalm at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. Although Wolfe was killed during the battle, the English successfully captured Quebec and effectively ended the French and Indian War. The Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763 and officially ended the conflict among European powers. This war had dramatically changed North America and the claims which European powers had made. The French had given up all their lands east of the Mississippi and Canada to England, as well as giving the Spanish the Louisiana Territory in a separate treaty before the end of the war. The end of this conflict has also signaled an end for this period of American history, and would have effects that the English would not have imagined.